HBO presents, as if it wasn't bad enough to try to figure out the difference between HBO on your cable, HBO Go, HBO Max, and HBO Now. Now we have HBO presents. HBO platforms can go themselves to the max right now. Corduroy boners. Bonderoys? Coroners?
What's going on?
Yeah, what's going on?
What is going on?
Seriously though, what's going on? And what I mean by that is, how did a show with sloppy handheld video, poor sound, and obviously improvised scenes somehow become one of the most prestige shows on cable? There are third graders on YouTube putting out more polished content than this now.
Like a 5-inch bunch up I got here.
According to the real-life documentary Bloodshot, 6 inches is not even impressive, so I'm not sure what Larry is so excited about here.
Is it a bad thing for men to walk around like that?
Setting aside the deep moral quandary about displaying a clothed erection in public, pants usually only tent like this while sitting, so not sure you need to worry about people thinking you're out for a chub walk at this point.
I don't have anybody to go with.
Go by yourself.
Maybe I'll call Richard Lewis.
Calling Richard Lewis. Also, are we really having storylines about not wanting to go to the movies by yourself in the year 2000? I'm pretty sure at this point, going to the movies by yourself is what heaven is made of.
Yeah.
Landlines. Also, making your wife answer the phone.
I can't believe I got you in your car.
I'm your manager. I'm always available.
I thought managers and agents were always dodging their clients' phone calls, like jumping into bushes and when they walked by. What kind of a bizarro world is this? I hate shows that aren't realistic, like all the screwball comedies from the 30s and 40s were.
I don't know. I'll have to ask Hitler.
Hitler?
I thought I was having a private conversation.
Playing off your inappropriate use of the Hitler card with, I didn't know anyone else was listening. This show was made so long ago that theaters hadn't figured out that you could advertise upcoming films or brand the theater on the cups and buckets. Thankfully, theaters would eventually use that untapped income to make sure they never had financial issues again.
Is that a problem for you?
Excuse me.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Be nicer about it.
And this will end up being Richard Lewis's date, because the subtitle for Curb Your Enthusiasm is actually The Man of Never-Ending Convenient Misunderstandings.
You wear that dress because you want people to look at your shoes, right?
Or possibly because she likes the way she looks in it. Or she likes the color. Or it was the only thing clean. Clothes are not invitations, they're decorations. Grow up.
She doesn't even move her knees to let somebody
She's
in?
sitting on the aisle. She's sitting on the aisle. She doesn't expect somebody to come in.
I understand that Larry David created Seinfeld and some characters were based on people he knew and blah, blah, blah. But early Curb just feels like Larry said, you know what would have made Seinfeld better? Me being in it, and also more mistaken erections. Also, considering his friend is sitting on the complete opposite aisle, maybe Larry should have gone around.
I'll be up till 5 o'clock in the morning if I have a cup of coffee now.
I feel like I'll be up too late if I drink coffee now has become the get off my lawn of beverage conversations.
That's really weird.
I know, it's
Yeah, it's very creepy.
Cheryl Hines, in her thoughts about the subject matter of this episode, somehow makes its way into the script.
Any idiot could tell that was just material.
Cheryl would be enthusiastic at TVSins.
I mean, I'm not going to say that I called her Hitler and your parents heard it in the car.
Right. Why would you be honest with your partner? What a silly concept. Perhaps if she wouldn't understand the joke, maybe don't make the joke. Or perhaps don't make a Hitler joke at all.
Bob Shaw called. He just wanted to say hi.
Episode will never resolve the case of Bob Shaw and his need to say hi.
2 tips. Okay, yeah, I'm writing it down. Alcoa wrap. Is that tin foil or plastic? Is that saran wrap?
This goes on for some time. Though, come to think of it, this going on for any time at all was pretty much a sin already.
They're not breasts, they're just big chemical balls, okay?
I mean, technically, they're still breasts. They've just had chemical balls inserted into them. But semantics.
You better call me later on, by sundown.
By sundown? What are you, Gary Cooper?
If he was Gary Cooper, he'd be asking you to call him by high noon, Larry. Maybe you need to be reading Emily Post.
I'm trying not to laugh, but that's funny.
Or maybe if you were actually mad, instead of just play acting this poorly constructed scenario, you wouldn't even have to try. I swear this show is Larry David basically jerking around with his friends and then tricking someone else to pay for it.
Sammy is asleep on the floor. He's got his arm around Sarah.
Did they just say he and him for Sammy? Because based on literally the least possible amount of research I could do, isn't Sammy their daughter?
You thought that I had an erection.
I don't understand the thought part.
I'm honestly not sure which is more unbelievable. That a grown human would assume an erection based on bunched up pants, that someone would think this was important enough to call a face-to-face meeting, or that once told about what really happened, the person would still find it so hard to believe.
Sophia Loren was once a source. I know my sources.
Sophia Loren was once a source?
Larry! Hey! Hey, come here.
Hey!
Hey, Cheryl.
So Larry David plays Larry David, Cheryl plays Cheryl, Jeff plays Jeff, and Susie plays Susie. This show is so lazy they should have just called it Curb Your Effort.
And I'm trying to find a place for a table of 2 and I just don't have one.
Wait a second.
What's happening?
I know.
What's happening is the same thing that happens in every scene of the show. Someone states the plot point at hand, and then the characters take turn reciting that plot point in different ways. Like,
We can't sit 2 people on a table of 4.
or,
Then we'll take the table for 4 and there'll just be 2 of us.
or how about,
We can't sit a 2 and a 4, you can only sit a 4 and a 4.
anyhow, they do this for a minute or so until they get bored and start the next plot point. Acting!
I'm gonna have the fish frenzy.
What's that? Where do you see that?
Probably nowhere, because there is zero chance a restaurant this nice has something called Fish Frenzy. Denny's wouldn't have something called that, and they have a dish called Moons Over My Hammy.
I'd like to apologize for the necessity to crowd you a bit.
How is this crowding? You can fit an entire chair between Jeff and Susie. They're practically social distancing at that table.
Oh, Kathy Griffin.
That's right, she was mentioned earlier, so of course she's here. We will add Chekhov's Kathy Griffin to Chekhov's Richard Lewis's girlfriend, Chekhov's Hitler reference, and Chekhov's erection to the list of things that have come back to haunt Larry in this episode alone. But I guess that's the thing about Chekhov's erection, it's sure to pop up again eventually. This credit is now playing music in your head, and will for the next 3 days.
It's actually an optical illusion. It's the pattern on the pants. It's not flattering in the crotchal region.
For some reason, you all want to wear the TVSins Pitchfork M on your body. So we slapped that f***er on some new merch and threw it in the store. Posters, hoodies, tanks, socks, leggings. Click on the merch below the YouTube player or click the store link at TVSins.com.
Cheryl, come here for a second.
What?
How you doing?
Hello?
Is this Trevor?
Do I sound like a Trevor to you?
Eddie, it's your dad. Is your mother there?
No, she's not back from the shops yet. She's getting that German beer that you like for the match.
Are you looking at my breast?
I was not my intention. I didn't stare directly at them.
You're looking at him right now.
Now I did.
Don't worry, it's over now.
It's over. What
have
you
to
did.
pull yourself together.
Pull yourself together. But I try to be a nice human being. Forget about it.
Forget about it.